Shalom Aleichem. Can you hear me? Awesome. Okay, we're going to make a siyum this evening. We are on the last Mishnah of the second Perek. So it says Rabbi Tarfon in continuation, Hu haya omer, referring to Rabbi Tarfon, Lo alecha hamalacha ligmor. It is not up to you to finish the work. V'lo ata ben chorin levatel imena. And you are not a free individual to cancel yourself from working it. If you learn a lot of Torah, it will give you a lot of reward. And you can trust in your employer that he will give you a reward for the work you've done. V'dan, you should know that the eventual reward for tzaddikim will be in the next world. So let's go through this Mishnah again slowly and try and get a little more clarity in it. It seems to be saying a message that lo alecha hamalacha ligmor. Don't worry if you're not able to finish. Don't worry, that's not your responsibility. You just have to put in the efforts. And then it seems to be taken another extreme and says, but on the other hand, don't give up. Don't say, well, if the work's not for me to finish, then I don't have to finish, meaning that I could just stop right now. So he says, no, lo atal ben chorin levatal mena, but you're not free. You can't choose just to cancel. That's a simple reading over there. And then he says, which seems to contradict the idea we just said. Because we just said a moment ago, it's not that you need to finish, meaning it's more about how much effort you put in. It's more about your efforts that you put in. It doesn't really make a difference how much you learn. Like the Gemara says, it doesn't make a difference if you do a lot or a little, as long as you have good intention. But then here it says, no, if you learn more Torah, you'll get more reward, which seems to imply that it's about doing a lot. That is what you need to be doing. And then it seems to say that we had a havamina that Hashem wouldn't give us reward. So Ne'emanu, don't worry, you can trust in Hashem, your employer, that he'll pay you for the reward. So that seems to be that a havamina there was that we wouldn't trust Hashem, that he'll pay us for this, and now we are saying we do trust him. And then it finishes by saying that don't think you'll see the reward in your lifetime, that the reward of the tzaddikim is in the next world. So that seems to be just a flow of the Mishnah with some questions, just trying to understand the pshat. Another question is, just on a technical note, that do we get reward as a present or are we paid reward? If you go through the Mishnah, it seems to jump back and forth. When it starts in the third sentence, it says, it uses the word matana notnim lecha schar. In the next phrase, it says, yishalem lecha schar. So first it will give it to you, the reward, and then it says it will pay you the reward. And then in the third section, it jumps back again, and it says, matan scharan. You're given the reward. So we need to get a clearer understanding of is a reward given, is reward paid, and how does this all relate to us on a more kind of down-to-earth practical way? Especially because I don't feel that many people do Avodah Hashem for reward. I think they have their next world's reward in mind. So what does it mean to us on a more down-to-earth practical manner? So I want to start off by quoting things outside and then get back to what we're speaking about over here. There's a book by the Ramchal called Eitz Chaim, which I recommend reading. It's not very long. Sometimes they print it in the back of Mesilas Yesharim. There was once a rabbi in Kerem Yavana whose name slips me for a minute. When he wasn't a rabbi here. He learned here, and then afterwards he became a rabbi. And he wrote a commentary in English on the Sefer Eitz Chaim. It's in the English library upstairs. So in there he goes through Derech HaLimud. He speaks about how a person should learn. And he divides up all the different areas of when a person should learn and how much a person should learn. It's fascinating work. And then he starts speaking about learning Kabbalah. And when he's talking about learning Kabbalah, he says, and I know people will say to me, I believe in learning Kabbalah. I think it's a good thing, but I don't really understand it. When I try and learn, it's beyond me. It's too far for me. It's not something I'm able to relate to. Just Derech Agav, I had a friend who came to Kerem Yavana who didn't come from a yeshivish background. And today he's writing don't get me wrong, he's finished Kol HaTorah Kula, he's done a Siyam Shas and everything, he's very grounded. And he's also writing a Perush on a Kabbalistic work right now. So if you think it's beyond you, here's someone not so much older, not around my age, who came to Kerem Yavana like a regular Bachor, not from a yeshiva background, and was able to reach this level of learning Kabbalah. So it is within our reach. But either way, the Ramchal says you might think that it's not in your reach. And what's the response the Ramchal gives? He quotes our Mishnah, and he says, it may be that it's beyond your reach, but you have to show your will that you wish to learn it and put an effort to learn it. And if you say, well, I won't anyway get the full understanding of it, and then he quotes our Mishnah, Lo alecha hamalacha ligmor. So it seems to be that the phrase of Lo alecha hamalacha ligmor is coming to say to us that you have to plan as if you can finish everything, even if technically you're not able to finish everything. And I want to give an amazing story about a precious, precious Jew who just passed away a couple of months ago. Maybe Eli Bogart knows him. He comes from your neighborhood. His name is Meister. You know it? Rabbi, his name will come to me in a second. You remember his name? Help me out if you remember his name, Eli. He's from Baltimore, right? He's from Baltimore. His
another family.
You know the family?
Yeah.
So the father just passed away, right? He just passed away a couple of months ago. So this is an amazing, amazing story which I like to tell every year because I feel that it can imbue a great sense of Chashivas HaTorah and hope in every Jew. This Jew, whose name sticks in mind in him, his family name is Meister. He comes from Eli's neighborhood. So Meister, he didn't grow up religious. And he, at one point, he was looking for truth. He actually saw some show, some sitcom show, which spoke about a bar mitzvah. It was like a joke there about a bar mitzvah. And someone in university said to him, aren't you Jewish? Did you have a bar mitzvah? And he said, like, no, I didn't. And he started thinking, well, why didn't I have a mitzvah? And he was a very erlich, very yashar individual, although not religious. So he started looking into it. Eventually, that led him to go to Or Sameach in Yerushalayim. And he felt frustrated in yeshiva by the fact that there wasn't a very methodological, orderly system to learning. They just like throw you into learning Gemara, and he felt that that's not the way that it's supposed to be. How can you build anything in that way? He was a very, very organized Jew. And when he wasn't a Jew, when he was in medical school, he was very organized as well. So he said, I'm only going to learn Mishnayos. And he spoke to the Rebbeim there in Or Sameach, and they said that really is the correct path, but it doesn't work for most people because they're always looking for fantasy, learning Gemara and high levels. But really, if you can sit down and learn Mishnayos, that's the best path. So he sat in Or Sameach, and all his friends were stuck in Chakiros, even though they were Baalei Tshuva, and they were stuck in great Chakiros of Achronim. He was there learning his Mishnayos, and he finished Shas Mishnayos. Then he went back to medical school, and he made a very important decision. Even though he could have gone into being a surgeon, and he probably would have got a lot more fame and money, but he realized that he could have enough money just by being a radiologist, and he could support a family and have free time. So he went into that. He came back to yeshiva, and he made a goal for himself. Now listen carefully to where his goal came from, because this is from our Mishnah. He was in a Siyum Shas. It was Daf Yomi Siyum Shas, and he attended. And one rabbi who spoke there quoted the Chafetz Chaim. And this quote from the Chafetz Chaim was from the first ever Siyum Shas that the Chafetz Chaim attended. And the Chafetz Chaim quoted, I remember where it was from. I get the feeling it was from Derech Erech Zutra or something like that. But he quoted a Ma'amar Chazal that says that every Masechta is a light to come close to Hashem. Is a gateway. Every Masechta is a gateway to come close to Hashem. And that when a person goes up to Shamayim after 120 plus years, then there will be different gates of their closest to Hashem. And some people will be able to open the gates of Bava Kama. Some people will be able to open the gates of Bava Basra. But there are some gates that for many people are closed. There are some gates of Me'il, some Masechtas that people just don't get to. Some of them are Kodshim Masechtas. People just don't get to them. And then the Chafetz Chaim said that the Rav Meir of Lublin, Rav Meir Shapiro of Lublin, he has opened the gates of those Masechtas. That when a Jew gets to Shamayim, not only will the limited yeshiva Masechta gates be open for him to come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through those gates, but all the gates are open. All the gates for that Jew are open. And the Chafetz Chaim continues and he says, and if you think, but who am I? I can't understand those Masechtas. So the Chafetz Chaim said, and this I also read once in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, that when you learn, if you have the will to understand, and you put an effort to understand, then even if you don't understand, In Shamayim, the gate is open for you. Which means that when you get to Shamayim, and they say, did you learn Meira? You say, yes, I didn't understand a word, but I tried so hard. When you get there, all the barriers are removed. And you're able to understand Maseches Meila. And in Yeshiva Shalmala, when you're learning Yeshiva Shalmala, you're able to be involved in the discussion of Maseches Meila. And in fact, Kol HaTorah Kula. And that means to say that a person should make a plan where he is going to finish Kol HaTorah Kula. And this is brought down lahalacha in the Shulchan Aruch HaRav. When the Shulchan Aruch HaRav, he has Hilchos Talmud Torah, when he writes, he's talking about a father teaching his son, but either way, that certainly applies to a person teaching himself. When a person makes a plan of their learning, they have to work out a plan how they are going to finish Kol HaTorah Kula. And this Rabbi Meister from Baltimore, later on from Baltimore, when he heard these words, that was the life-transforming sentence that he heard that made a trajectory for the rest of his life. He said, I am going to finish Kol HaTorah Kula. And he right there and then, whereby he believed that he wasn't fitting for that, he believed that was beyond him, because he always believed it was too hard for him and he wasn't able to understand. He said, it may be too hard for me to understand, but that's not relevant to me. I have to put in my efforts to understand. HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges me by the effort that I put in, by the amelus that I put in. And he made a plan. It was a 21-year plan. And in 7.5 years, he started Daf Yomi there and then with that program. And that's Siyam Shas. After finishing Daf Yomi, he went on to do Yerushalmi, which took him another 4.5 years. After Yerushalmi, he went on to learn Rambam and Tzur Shulchan Aruch, which took him, I think, 3 years for Rambam and another 4.5 years for Tzur Shulchan Aruch. Then he went on and he did Medrash. He learned all of Medrash. Concurrently, he did other halachic works, Mishnah Berurah. And then he wanted to do more modern day halachic, sorry, not modern day, but Rishonim Hashkafa Svarim. And he went through Moreh Nevuchim, and he went through the Kuzari. And he eventually had a 21-year target goal for himself. By the way, he always did Mishnayos. He had a cycle of Mishnayos that he was always keeping up Mishnayos. But he finished Kol HaTorah Kula. He went to his Rav, how do you define Kol HaTorah Kula? And they said Tanakh, obviously. He did Tanakh, Mishnah, Gemara, Bavli, Yerushalmi, Medrash. He did all the works of Tanaim, major halachic works, and the major hashkafic works, philosophical Jewish works that have formed the shape of Yiddishkeit. And he made a siyum at age 21. Now, what happened was, very close after when he finished making the siyum, he was diagnosed with cancer. And these are his words. When I read these words, tears came to my eyes. He said, I'm a radiologist. I know the meaning of cancer. I know exactly what that means and what the future for that is. He said, and when I saw that was the result, listen carefully to his words. He said, if I wouldn't have finished Kol HaTorah Kula, I would have been petrified. That's what he said. If I would not have finished Kol HaTorah Kula, I would have been petrified. But now I wasn't scared. I knew that when I got up to Shamayim, all the gates will be open. I've put in efforts for all the gates. And I'm particularly looking forward to Ezehu Neshech, he said. Because when I learned Ezehu Neshech in Bava Metzia, the fifth Perek, I basically didn't understand a word there. And I was thinking to myself, what gives me encouragement is that I put an effort to try to understand it. And now I'm a step closer to when I get to Shamayim, that they'll finally explain to me, all the barriers will be removed from my understanding. I'll finally be able to understand what it meant in that fifth Perek of Bava Metzia and Ezehu Neshech. That's a vision. Now, why is that vision a healthy vision? Because there are two, and that's a true story. This is a Jew who lived in Baltimore, just passed away from cancer. It is a whole nother perek in the story, which is not relevant for our part, but like a nace that happened with his cancer and how he overcame something and how he continued to live for another period of time. That's a whole other aspect to the miracle. And he has a whole other parsha in his story about financial. He has a whole financial, he wrote a book which is printed by Art Scroll called The Meister Plan, which is how to take care of oneself financially. That's a whole other area in his life. So there's a lot of things to learn from this precious Jew. But the point that we're taking is, there are two extremes that people have, both of which lead to unhealthy results. And Rabbi Tarfon in our Mishnah is coming to give us the perfect balance. Here are the two extremes. The one extreme is that a person looks at Kol HaTorah Kula and it looks overwhelming to them. And they say, this is way too much, this is way beyond me, I'm not able to handle it, and therefore why begin? There's a Medrash Rabbah actually that says an amazing, I'm sure you're all familiar with this, well, it's often quoted, but there's a Jew who walks into a base Medrash and he says, what do you have to do here? And they basically lay out for him that 21-year Meister plan of Kol HaTorah Kula, and he says, that's way beyond me, I'm not going to start, and he leaves the base Medrash. And there's another Jew who comes in and he says, well, look, there are Talmidei Chachamim over there. How did they get there? How did they get there? I don't know. And then the Medrash gives a mashal and it says, a Jew comes in and he sees some food high up, hanging from the ceiling. And the one Jew looks and says, that's too high, I can't reach it. So he doesn't even bother. And the other Jew says, well, someone put it there. Someone put the food up there. It means it's possible to get to it. And he takes tables and chairs and he starts piling them up and eventually he's able to reach it. And when a Jew looks at the vastness of Torah and he feels overwhelmed, then you have to ask yourself, well, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me this mission, it means that Hashem believes in me. Hashem believes that I'm able to do it. And if you say, well, I'm not able to do it, my mind is not able to, then we have to learn a deep understanding. A person whose mindset is about accomplishment is making a mistake. I want to give a very important yesod here. There's a non-Jewish concept which is very useful for us in certain areas and very detrimental for us in Torah, which is the purpose of life is to accomplish, be accomplished. When you go to yeshiva, your great-grandmother asks you, no, what do you get from it? What do you get? And you say, I learn. And they go, do you get a certificate? And you say, no. So what's it worth? What's it worth? Are you a rabbi now? After 1 year, are you a rabbi at least? Can I say my grandson's a rabbi? It would be worthwhile. And you say, yeah, I stayed 3 years in Kerem Yavneh, and they gave me a form that says BTL. Oh, Choshuv, BTL, I don't know what it is, but sounds very. What? Why are people looking for certificates? Why are people looking for what are you going to get out of it? I've heard many times parents say, I don't mind if he stays on in yeshiva, so long as he does smicha and he gets a profession from it, and he goes on to. Meaning there's not a recognition of the value, that's a good case, there's not a recognition of the value, of the inherent value of Torah, because what are you going to get from it? What comes out? What are you accomplishing? And that's a very healthy mindset when it comes to the secular world. It's very healthy. If I'm going to a doctor, chas v'shalom, if someone has surgery, I don't want to know who put in the most effort in medical school. That does not interest me. If someone put in the most effort in medical school and he got the award for the hardest trier, but he failed his exams, so I don't want him to be the one to operate. Because when we're talking about this world, what's important in this world is achievement. And that's really true, because this is the world of mindset. And therefore, it's a good measure in this world who's most accomplished, the person who's most successful. And it doesn't bother me if they put in more effort. There's one car company that their slogan is, we try harder. I never got that slogan. What does it mean, we try harder? But are you successful? So what if you try harder? In this world, that's not relevant. If you were telling me that you're a yeshiva and your slogan is we try harder, I like that. That's good. It's about, in your learning Torah is about the effort that you put in. That's good. But if you tell me that you're a car company, it's about trying harder. Mazeh omer. It means that you're not successful, you just keep trying. It doesn't mean anything. In this world, it's a value to be accomplished. Because this world is a world of physical accomplishment. This is the world where accomplishment has to take place. But don't bring over that value to the world of Torah or the world of mitzvahs. Because once you bring over that value to Torah and mitzvahs, then you're always going to judge, is it worth my while learning Torah? And honestly, if you learn Daf Yomi and you finish 7.5 years, it's very likely that you'll look back and you won't remember very much. And someone will say, well, was it worth it? Was it worth it? And if you're looking from a this world perspective, you'll say, I don't know, it's a feeling of satisfaction that I took a task upon myself and I finished the task. Okay, very nice. You could also finish Encyclopedia Britannica and finish that task as well. What's the inherent value you have in Torah from doing that? if you're not looking at it from a Torah perspective, but you're only looking at it from a this world perspective, it's not a great value. So we need to understand more deeply what the value is. Now I want to teach a concept which in the modern world is called reframing. I want to explain what that concept is first, what reframing means, and then I'm going to see how to apply it over here. Reframing is where you have a particular way of looking at something. You look at something in a particular box, like you have a frame, there's the box, which you look at it in, and as long as you're looking at it in that box, it doesn't work well for you. It's just not working the way you want it to work. But then you take that same incident that's happening, what's going on there, the same thing that's happening, but suddenly you look at it through a different frame, which is a more accurate frame, a more appropriate frame. You understand it from a more true perspective. And then suddenly what you're looking at makes a lot more sense and you're able to work with it. That's that concept of reframing. When you look at it one way, it's not working for you. Then you realize the way you're viewing it is not a healthy way. It's not, you see by the result that it's not working, so you view it from a different way. Okay, so now, people view Torah in an unhealthy way through accomplishment. What am I going to get out of it? And that's on a jokey scale, like I said before, you're going to get a certificate, but even very, very much in the base medrash, people get frustrated by, they sat a long time on learning something, they didn't understand it in the end, and they feel frustrated about that. They look back at the end of the year and they say, I learned this many pages, but like, what does that mean? Who am I now? And okay, I learned this many pages of Mesilas Yesharim, but like, I don't really remember everything that I learned. So what does that mean? And they come out of a time of a period, either a sefer or a period of learning. And they say, well, what did I get from it? What is it all worth? And they're looking at through the frame they're looking through is a frame of accomplishment. And they feel frustrated. Now, if you were just to come and tell them, like the Mishnah is saying here, that you shouldn't look through the frame of accomplishment, you should look through the frame of effort, then that's a more true frame. But for some low reason, people have in their minds that effort is what you say to people to make them feel better when they weren't accomplished. That's what you do. Like you have the people who really get all the awards, and the people who didn't get awards, you say, you tried really hard. Here we're going to give a special reward, which in Hebrew is called a pras tanchumin. I say that in English, a consolation prize. A pras tanchumin, where you weren't able to get the award for best this or best that, so we'll give you the reward for you tried hard. It's like that car company. You tried very hard. Very nice. And therefore, when we try and reframe through the effort one, it's about the effort that you put in. Whether it's true or not true, it doesn't usually work for people. It doesn't usually answer their basic need of, well, I tried really hard, so that's probably what's important. Even though that's the truth. That's the truth. The truth is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is judging us by the effort we put in. It doesn't make a difference if you work hard or don't work. Sorry, I'll phrase that. It doesn't make a difference if you accomplish a lot or don't accomplish a lot. As long as you've put in your maximum effort, that's what you've done. You know you've put in your maximum effort. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. And when you get to Shamayim, this is what the Maharal says on this Mishnah. When you get to Shamayim, there'll be two people there. One person who over the course of the year finished Shas, and one person over the course of the year finished 20 pages of Gemara, but they both put in the same amount of effort. In Shamayim, they're the same. That's what the Maharal says on this Mishnah. They're the same. Because it doesn't make a difference. Hashem's not judging you by the accomplishments. Hashem is judging you by the effort that you put in. And that's a more true frame. If you want to reframe, that's a better reframe to take. Don't look at your learning through the frame of accomplishment, which is a good way to view which doctor to choose, but it's not a good way to choose to view how your learning is going. The real frame that you should be viewing through is how hard is it for me, how much effort I'm putting in, and how much I've accomplished as far as effort is concerned. How much effort I was putting in. As I'm evaluating my accomplishment through effort. Now I want to say this point very clearly, because it's very hard for people to move away from the idea of accomplishment, and I'll tell you why. Because this world works on accomplishment. Everything that pushes this world, everything that gives energy for us to move is the idea of what I'm going to achieve, what I'm going to accomplish. That's what gives people the energy and the enthusiasm to keep going. So to say to a person, reframe, don't look at trying to be accomplished, look at how much effort you put in, is not encouraging usually. If I just like, let's say what we're basically saying now, we're saying, don't think if you'll accomplish anything in yeshiva, just work hard and hard and hard and hard and hard and hard and hard. And even if you don't accomplish anything, it doesn't matter. Just keep working hard, keep working hard. People with that mindset, they often give up at a certain point because they need to feel, well, what did I get from it? Where did I get to? What did I accomplish? And even though you say, don't look in that way, it's the wrong way to look. They say, I know, but I need to look in that way. Otherwise, I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. I don't feel like I'm accomplishing anything. I don't feel like it's worth anything. And therefore, let's try and reframe in a way that's a healthy way. And I think what Rabbi Tarfon is saying to us here. If you try and view this world as a world of accomplishment, it's not going to work. If you try and view this world as a world of effort, that's also not going to work. But if you view effort as an accomplishment, not for what you're going to get here, but what you're building towards a greater vision for the future, then it will work. Because then you're using accomplishment, but you're using accomplishment to push you to put in more effort. And I want to go back to my story of the Meister plan for a minute. I told you that when he reached Ezu Neshech, he felt that like, this is so hard for me. What gave him encouragement? What enabled him to push through? The thought that he's accomplishing his place in the next world in a very tangible way. Not a, what is the reward in the next world, something out of my realm. But no, very clearly, there's going to be a yeshiva in the next world. And who is going to be able to be learning in that yeshiva? Who's going to be mafalpel? Who's going to be able to talk in learning? It's the people who put in effort to understand in this world. So what was pushing him wasn't the thought of putting in effort. What was pushing him was the same force that we use in this world. It was the force of, I want to accomplish. I want to feel accomplished. But he recognized that the way to be accomplished in the long term, the way to be accomplished is through effort here in this world. And everyone's willing to put in effort if they see that it's going to lead to accomplishment. So essentially what we're saying is that we're not reframing from don't think of being accomplished to only thinking about effort, because now a person will give up hope when they don't see any accomplishment after a time. But if you have the vision of Torah, that all the learning that you put in now, when you get to Shemayim and you get to the next world, you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be like this. You and Moshe Rabbeinu will be like this. And you and the biggest Gadol Hador right now will be like this. And you'll say to yourself, but in this world, I was nothing compared to these Gedolim. I didn't understand what they were talking about. It was so embarrassing for me. I would hear them talking and learning, and I wasn't like holding at all. But then you'll understand that you're accomplishing through your putting in efforts. And when you learn and you try and understand, you know that as long as you put in the maximum effort to understand at any given point, that you've opened the gateway to that understanding. And you've accomplished that understanding. When you go to Shemayim, that will be crystal clear to you. You understand it so well. In fact, you may even understand it more clearly than someone who in this world didn't put in so much effort to understand it, because he only understood it according to this world's level. But you understand it according to the next world's level, because you're understanding it through the effort that you put in, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu opening the gate for you. That's a higher level of understanding. So let's go through the Mishnah again and get a new reading. Rabbi Tarfon would say, Hu haya omer, lo alecha hamalacha ligmor. On the one hand, I'm telling you a very empowering belief that you have to make a vision for yourself of finishing kol haTorah kula. And that's a halacha. You have to make such a plan of how you're going to finish everything. But don't worry and don't give up hope that you're not going to be able to finish it, because it's not about you finishing here in this world. It's about you showing the will to learn in this world. Don't be arrogant and look around and say, well, I understand already, so I'm okay. When people judge their own learning by how they know more than someone else, then in the next world, they're not going to be accomplished. In fact, it's a very dangerous mindset that they have. People who judge their learning by, I know more than everyone else around me, then they judge their learning by, I've put in enough effort relative to this world. When they get to the next world, they'll find that they won't understand things. They'll understand whatever they were able to understand here in this world. But because they judge their level of effort based on this world, I know more than other people in this world, and they'll be lacking. Even if you understand more than other people in this world, you can't stop there. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges you by your effort that you could potentially put in. There's an amazing statement by the Gra in Even Shleim. I think it's the 8th parak near the end. He says there that when you learn Torah in the womb, you're given a certain portion, which is your portion to learn. And your mission in this world is to actualize your portion in learning. It's nothing to do with anyone else. It's nothing to do with I understood more than someone else. You come down to this world to put an effort in your learning of Torah according to the potential that you have. You're not expected more, but you are expected to reach your potential of learning that you could potentially do here in this world. And therefore, it's a futile mindset for a person to have, to say, well, I know more than everybody else. There are tests in school which ruin children. I'll give you an example. There's a Chidon Tanakh, there's the Bible quiz. In my opinion, it's done in a very bad way. Because in order to win the Bible quiz, you don't need to know the Tanakh perfectly. You only need to know Tanakh better than whoever your next contender is. A few years ago, there was a girl, I forgot her name, but she learned nearby here in Gedera, and she knew the Bible, the Tanakh, what you had to know, much, much better than anyone in the last 3 years. And how do I know that? Because she got a perfect score all the way to the end. Perfect score, which no one in the last 3 years got. She got a perfect score, but she didn't win. You know why she didn't win? Because Rav Aaron Friedman's son, Elkanah Friedman, he got a perfect score as well, and he knew more than her. So what does that show you? If she would have been in any other year, she would have won. But because she was in the year with Elkanah Friedman, she didn't win. So that's not a good way of judging one's knowledge. Because she put in way more effort. I don't know how much effort she did, but she was much more accomplished than other people of other years. But the way they're judging it is not how much you know. They're judging it based on comparison to other people. That's a bad way of testing. It's a bad way of education. It shows the children that we don't care objectively how much effort you put in. You only have to put the other kid down and you'll be okay. You only have to be better than the other kids in the class. From a Torah perspective, that's a bad way of educating. Because that's showing a model which is not true to Shemaim. Shemaim's model based on the Gra is that you are given a certain portion of Torah that you have to fulfill in this world. That Tein Chalkeinu b'Toratecha, our unique chelek. We have to bring out our unique chelek. So why do you judge yourself by everyone else that you know more than them? That's futile, it's irrelevant. You're telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu that all you care about is your level of understanding in this world. The other person who knows less than you in this world but puts in more effort to understand, when you both get the Shemaim, he'll understand more than you. Because he's given the gates to be opened according to the effort that he puts in. There are two levels of learning. There's two levels of reward. There's one level of reward which is in accordance to your effort. There's another level of reward which is in accordance to the connection that you build with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world, based on your efforts in this world. One is based on what you've done, your accomplishment. One is based on the effort that you've shown towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's a gift. Let's read it carefully. Im lamadta Torah harbeh. And I'm going now with the Maharal, who explains if you put in lots of effort in learning, you just kept learning and kept learning and kept learning, even if it was difficult for you, even if you didn't understand, or even if it was easy for you, and therefore you had the challenge of saying, I've done enough. Either way, you kept learning. Notnim lacha schar harbeh. What does it mean, notnim? It's a gift. Meaning it's way beyond the amount of learning that you had here in this world, way beyond what naturally you've earned. Notnim lacha. They give you a gift way beyond, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges you by the effort that you put in. Notnim lacha schar harbeh. Now you might think that since HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges by efforts, then does that mean that all my accomplishment in this world doesn't mean anything? No. Don't worry, you can trust Hashem on that matter. It's not just like random gifts that Hashem gives out, not according to what you did. Ne'emanu ba'al melachtecha, Hashem is trustworthy. That what? She'yishalem lecha schar pulatecha. Here we're talking about in accordance to your efforts, in accordance to what you actually accomplished. Pa'ula is what was po'el in the world. And therefore Hashem will give you in this world, right? This world and next world you get rewarded for Torah. Hashem in this world will give you in accordance to what you accomplished in this world. V'da, but know deeply, and da is always much deeper than the simple understanding. You should know deeply, matan scharan, that the real reward, the gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give you, which is way beyond the effort, the accomplishment that you did in this world, but it's directly in accordance to your desire to come close to Hashem and your efforts in coming close to Hashem, that will be lasid lavo. And that's the encouragement that I opened with of the story of Rabbi Meister, that he recognized that the ultimate reward that he's working towards, accomplishment that he's working towards, is the yeshiva shalmala. That he's going to get the yeshiva shalmala, and in that place, the closest to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he will have is something tangible. He'll be able to learn Maseches Me'ilah with the Gedolim. He'll be able to understand clearly what the words were saying, and he'll be able to see the light of Hashem that Hashem brings through the Gemara learning. The closest to Hashem will be able to feel. So therefore, he was using the tool of accomplishment. He was using the tool of accomplishment. But he used the tool of accomplishment to put an effort in this world, even where he didn't see how he's going to understand. He never gave up hope. He never said, it's too difficult for me. He said, it's too difficult for me. And Taka, that's why I'm happy that I did it. Because if I don't understand here, I'll understand there. And with that, we have a siyum. Rabbi Tarfon, thank you for giving us this gift of helping us have a Torah perspective. This gift enables us to push through and push through and push through. When we're in isolation, we're in quarantine, and we don't have all that encouragement of all the other people around us learning. But we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when it's harder, Taka there, when I put in more effort, when it's harder for me, that's where I'm opening more gates in Shamayim. And I have a plan, Hashem, to finish Kol HaTorah Kula. I'm going to do Daf Yomi. I'm not saying that everyone here is listening to this right now has to have a plan right now at this moment they've already started. But everyone has to have a plan at which point they are going to be learning Kol HaTorah. Let's say you say, when I'm in yeshiva, I just want to have a Rebbe and learn Be'im with my Rebbe, and I'm putting all my efforts into that. That's fine. But when are you going to start Kol HaTorah Kula? When are you going to start having a plan? Everyone should have a Seder of Kol HaTorah Kula. Have a Seder. Make a Seder. It could be 20 minutes a day. I don't care. Make a Seder where you're doing Kol HaTorah Kula. Start your Kol HaTorah Kula 20 minutes a day with Tanakh, and then start working through it. When you finish Tanakh, then your 20 minutes a day Kol HaTorah Kula will start on Mishnayos. And if you're reaching a point where you're already 85 and you're only in halfway through Zroim, then maybe you can add an extra hour, and then you can try and get more towards Kol HaTorah Kula. And if you don't, okay, lo alecha melacha ligmor, it's not a problem. But you have to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu that your plan is to learn Kol HaTorah Kula. Ashrechem Yisrael, Ashreinu Rabbi Tarfon. Everyone should come away from this talk with chizuk. They're making a plan of how they're going to finish Kol HaTorah Kula. Have a good night.